In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Praise be to Allah. I hope you had a chance to view the minister's lecture on how to eat to live first prior to viewing this one and going further in the class. It was very, very comprehensive look at why we need how to eat to live and what how to eat to live will do for us. And he actually, at the end, was going into some of the specifics of how to walk into the action of how to eat to live. So I just wanted to briefly show a short video about what we are dealing with and the dangers of sugars. So in the objectives for this section, we asked, how are these foods that were based on the Best Foods Challenge? So your list of foods that you went and looked at and you made a check on whether that food was something that we should eat or something that we shouldn't, and then whether or not there were any conditions, because there are conditions that Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us on some foods. An example would be, he said that we can eat some spinach. And so if you marked yes that we can eat spinach, you should have put in the comment section that he said we should eat some spinach, but we should not become an habitual eater of spinach. That makes sense? So a question here is, how are these foods associated with sugar? And I'm talking about everything that you put on that Best Foods Challenge that we can eat. And then the other question is, do the foods that are mentioned in How to Eat to Live have sugar in them? And so I'm going to read something. It's not included in your reading, but it still comes from this beautiful book. This is book 2. This is on page 64, page 2, How to Eat to Live. Fresh fruit and fresh edible vegetables and good pure wheat bread, pure milk and butter are the best food for man. And so those are the questions I want you to check. Those foods that he is saying are the best, do they have sugars in them? The next statement on same page, page 64, book 2. A lot of sweets is not at all good for man. There is enough sugar in fruits, vegetables, and bread for us. Notably sugars from sweets, wheat, cane, and beets, without our need to prepare and refine any to such a sweet degree that it causes sickness in the body of man, i.e. diabetes and other such ailments caused by too much sugar in the body. So there's the information straight from the man of God. Only book I know of that says from God in person, saying that the sugar that is in the foods naturally is good for us, great for us. In the first introductory video, I pointed to some of the phytonutrients that are associated with sugars. They bind with sugars. So when a sugar comes into a body, once you eat a bean pie or apple pie or some Oreo cookies, hopefully we're not eating that. But if we eat a so-called healthy sweet, like a bean pie, which we have to stop doing in aluminum, but another point. We eat a piece of bean pie, there's a lot of sugar in that. And those sugar molecules would be digested and absorbed in our intestines as either glucose or what we call disaccharides, which is 2 sugar molecules connected together. We don't need to get into any deep science. It's just that there are sugars that come in our body in individual molecules, sometimes molecules that are together. And then if you can think about putting multiple molecules together, like stacking chairs, that's when you're getting 2 starches. Carbohydrate is considered 2 that are connected together. 1 sugar by itself is considered a sugar. So when we're eating foods like bean pie, we're getting a lot of sugars that are going in at one time. And that doesn't necessarily mean it is bad if you eat it on the moderation, but you can overdo that as a good sugar. So that's the refined sugar that Honorable Elijah Muhammad is discussing. But the other natural foods, we're talking fruit, most importantly, because fruit has the highest ability to be an antioxidant and give us nutrients as a group of food. Vegetables are good at giving nutrients. Vegetables are not as good as the other foods that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad listed when he listed fruit, vegetables, wheat bread, raw milk as some of the best foods that you put in your body. All of these having sugars in them, of course, what we're discussing. So when you eat wheat bread, there's sugar in bread, but it's also a lot of antioxidants in wheat. So when we're eating wheat bread correctly, as he told us to do, we are getting beneficial sugars that are tied to helping the body heal. Navy beans and raw milk are probably the two foods that have the largest aspect of giving us nutrients at the same time that they are pulling toxins out the body. Two not very many foods that do both of those at the same time, give nutrients and pull toxins out of the body at the same time, but those two are. And they both have sugars in them. Your navy bean, of course, as Dr. Alim has taught us, is broken down very similar to the human body. The amount of protein, the amount of sugar, the amount of fat that's in a navy bean is almost a mirror image of how much fat, sugar, and protein is in the human body. And then when you come to raw milk, there is a lot of sugar in raw milk and there's a lot of fat in raw milk, but it's easily digested, easily absorbed, doesn't take a lot of digestion, but the antioxidant ability of raw milk, very high, and then the amino acids, which is the breakdown product of proteins in raw milk, does a lot of healing in the body. So I just wanted to mention that as we go into this section. I pray that these words will help you look at these questions that we're asking, look at this section and listening to the minister's lecture. And we're putting more of an understanding and more of an ability to walk out of the book into the reality of practicing how to eat to live in the most efficient manner, which if we understand what food represents, the healing, the maintenance, the energy, everything that we need in our daily lives is being supplied to us through our food. So that's how serious and how much we have to put emphasis on making sure that the foods we're eating are correctly in order for us to function at a high level. So again, thank you for listening, and assalamu alaikum.